In the early 16th century, the Indian subcontinent was a patchwork of competing regional kingdoms. Watching from the outside was Babur, a teenage prince chased out of his ancestral home, wandering the mountains with no kingdom to his name. But Babur had a singular, decisive advantage. He brought advanced gunpowder artillery to the subcontinent. His cannons shattered traditional defenses, letting his small, highly trained army carve out a massive new territory. Conquering territory, though, is entirely different from holding it. Babur's successors found themselves as a nomadic minority trying to rule a vast, diverse population. History had shown that governing by force alone created a cycle of rebellion that would eventually exhaust the treasury. The cannons won the physical land, but the conquest remained fragile. To survive, the early Mughals had to invent a new political architecture to actually govern the empire they had claimed. That solution came from Babur's grandson, Emperor Akbar. Recognizing the instability of his inheritance, Akbar systematically overhauled the mechanics of royal authority. Instead of draining his armies in endless campaigns against the powerful local Rajput kings, Akbar invited them into his inner circle. He arranged strategic marriages with rival dynasties, turning his fiercest battlefield enemies into loyal royal relatives. Curious, through a policy called Sul-e-Kul, or universal peace, he abolished the jizya tax on non-Muslims, removing financial barriers. By treating diverse populations as equal stakeholders, Akbar stabilized the realm, allowing massive streams of tax revenue to flow directly to the capital. You can see the physical proof of this integration in the empire's architecture. Looking at the red sandstone pavilions of Fatehpur Sikri, Islamic domes sit directly alongside traditional Hindu corner pillars, or chhatris. The state was literally building a hybrid identity in stone. Through calculated tolerance, Akbar took a military conquest and turned it into a legitimate superpower. He set the foundation for a staggering accumulation of wealth. By the time Shah Jahan took the throne in the 17th century, the Mughal state was an economic juggernaut. This map highlights trade routes converging on the Indian subcontinent, which at this point commanded roughly a quarter of the world's total economic output. Shah Jahan converted that wealth into physical splendor to project absolute divine sovereignty to his subjects and his international rivals. Look at the scale and mathematical precision of the Taj Mahal's central dome and minarets. It operates as the ultimate assertion of imperial power, a towering advertisement of limitless resources and control over human labor. Inside the royal court, the visual intimidation was even heavier. Foreign dignitaries were forced to approach the legendary Peacock Throne, a massive seat encrusted with hundreds of rubies, emeralds, and diamonds, designed to dwarf anyone standing before it. Architecture and jewel-encrusted pageantry had become the empire's primary weapons of soft power, projecting a deliberate illusion of total invincibility. But maintaining that illusion was severely draining the imperial treasury. Decades of funding these sprawling architectural projects began to slowly hollow out the state's financial reserves. Looking at the Mughal family tree, we can see a fatal, built-in weakness: the absence of primogeniture. The eldest son wasn't guaranteed the throne. Every time an emperor died, it guaranteed a brutal civil war among his heirs, burning through cash and military resources. Meanwhile, the bureaucracy Akbar built had grown over generations. By the mid-17th century, it was bloated, riddled with corruption, and increasingly difficult to manage from a single centralized throne. The scale of the empire had inadvertently engineered its own vulnerability. The administration was too heavy, and the constant succession wars too damaging to sustain its own mass. The ultimate stress test arrived with Shah Jahan's son, Aurangzeb. He seized the throne through a ruthless war, executed his brothers, and permanently imprisons his own father in the Agra fort. Aurangzeb was a brilliant tactician, but he was ideologically rigid. He abandoned Akbar's inclusive rules of sovereignty and reinstated religious taxes on his Hindu subjects, alienating the very alliances that held the state together. This map shows the catastrophic military blunder of his reign. Aurangzeb launched decades of grinding campaigns deep into the Deccan Plateau, attempting to conquer the entire subcontinent by force. This massive overextension hollowed out his own military, drained the treasury, and pushed a heavily taxed populace into open rebellion. Aurangzeb achieved the empire's greatest physical size, but to draw those borders, he destroyed the culture of tolerance and the strategic alliances required to maintain them. The moment Aurangzeb died, the system unraveled. Regional governors stopped sending taxes to the capital, breaking away to form their own splinter states, and the centralized machinery collapsed. The physical authority of the Mughals rapidly decayed. The Red Fort, once the heart of global wealth, was reduced to an empty shell, looted of its treasures, and left vulnerable to foreign raiders. This chaotic power vacuum created the conditions required for a foreign corporate entity, the British East India Company, to step in and swallow the fragmented subcontinent piece by piece. The history of the Mughals suggests that physical borders and marble monuments are only as stable as the social contracts beneath them. Ultimate survival was tied to the empire's ability to unite and respect the diverse people it governed.